Hi guys, it's Mrs. Millicent. Okay, we're going to tackle nested loops and loop analysis all in one video. Because I want to create some nested loops, and we're going to do trace tables so we can follow them. And then we're going to look at a nested loop and do a trace table first before we print it. Okay, so what is a nested loop? A nested loop is a loop inside of a loop. Okay, nested. That's all they are. So I'm going to do one loop. I'm going to do, let's see, int I equals 0. Let's say we'll go from I less than 10, and oops, and then we'll increment up. And then when this loop runs, we're just going to print out, what did I print? Dollar signs. Okay, so if I run this, let's go ahead and compile and run. It's just plain old loop. And the way I have it set with print, it should just print a row of dollar signs. So from 0 to 10, not including 10, so that's 0 to 9, that should be 10 dollar signs, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, $10 signs. Okay. Well, I want to print this row, say 5 times. So I can create a loop side of this loop to run 5 times. So it'll run this one 5 times. And if we do another loop, do int j equals, we'll start at, I'd like to start at 0 if you don't mind. And then j is less than 5, so that'll give me 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then j plus plus. And again, if you want to start this at 1 or if you want to use equal to, it really doesn't matter. Now if I put this entire loop inside, if I put this loop inside of this loop, let me do some indentation now so we can see how it's inside. What I've done now is created a nested loop. Oops. Of course, now I've got this extra space here. Sorry, guys. Let me have to have everything nice and spaced. Okay. So now I've got this little inner loop running inside this outer loop. So it's going to print a string of $10 signs 5 times because that's what that loop says. Okay, so let's compile and run it. And then, oh, what did I forget? You know what I forgot? After it prints one row, I need to add a blank line so that it goes to a new line before it does the second row. My mistake. That's why it's always good to run stuff while you're writing it. Here we go. So I have my first row of 10, my second row of 10, and third row. So this was when j was 0, this row was j was 1, j was 2, j was 3, and then j was 4. And then when j turned 5, 5 is not less than 5, so the loop stops running. Okay? So that's very, very quick and simple nested loop. All right, let's do another one. Okay, I want to print, I'm going to start with my dollar signs again. Now I can reuse I and j because they only exist, I only exist in this loop and j only exists in this loop. So I can reuse these variables if I want. So I is less than, okay, I'm going to do something a little different here. Let's say equal to j. And then I know you're like, where's j? I plus plus. Okay, I'm going to build the outer loop too. So 4 just do a couple of those. Oops. J plus plus. Okay, so what I wanted to do, so we have our outer loop. Okay, now we need to build our inner loop. Move this up a little bit. What I did here was a comparison. Okay, so this will allow me to either increase or decrease the output that I'm running. So let me just type it out, and we'll do a trace table first to figure out what it's going to do. Of course, let me do a little bit of indenting here. Okay, so here I'm going to do print. I'm going to do dollar signs again. They're fun. Okay. And then, of course, I do need that blank line, so I don't forget about that. Okay, so let's hop over here and let's do a quick trace table for this second nested loop before we run it, before we see what it actually does. Okay. Okay. So we have our outer loop. Okay, so our outer loop is a J. It's going to start at 0. I always like to write what the test is, so J has to be less than 5. I always try to write that in there. Okay. Then we have our inner loop. Now our inner loop is I. I is also 0. Now I has to be less than or equal to J. Okay, and what's going to output is the dollar sign. Okay, so I'm going to put the output down here. I'm trying to think if I could fit it over there, but I feel like I'm going to run out of room. Okay, so the first thing's going to happen is J is 0. That's less than 5, so it's going to hop into the inner loop, and I is 0. Now, is I less than or equal to J? Yes, 0 is less than or equal to 0. So now I get to print a dollar sign. Okay, and then this will change to 1. This will increment up to 1. Now, is 1 less than or equal to 0? No, it's not. Okay, so now I'm finished with the inner loop. So now I'm going to go down a line, and I'm going to hop back up to my outer loop. Now my outer loop is going to change to 1. J is going to increment up to 1. Then I'm going to come over here, and I is back to 0 again. So is 0 less than or equal to 1? Yes, it is. So in that case, I'm going to draw a dollar sign. And then that's going to increment up to 1. Is 1 less than or equal to 1? Yes, it is. So I'm going to draw a dollar sign. And then it's going to increment up to 2. Now, is 2 less than or equal to 1? No, it's not. So the inner loop is done. Now it's going to revert back out to the outer loop. So now this is going to go up to 2. Is 2 less than 5? Yes. So then I'm going to run into my inner loop again. So I is going to go back to 0. I'll extend my I line. Is 0 less than or equal to 2? Why, yes, it is. So I'm going to draw, oh, sorry guys, I forgot to go down a line. I'm going to draw a dollar sign. This is going to change to 1. 1 is less than or equal to 2. So I will have another dollar sign. Change this to 2. 2 is less than or equal to 2. So another dollar sign. And then 3. Now 3, less than or equal to 2? No, it is not. Okay. So now I fall out of that inner loop. I have to go down a line. Okay. And then I'm back to my outer loop. So that will switch to 3. That'll increment up to 3. 3 is less than 5. So now I'm going to jump into the inner loop, start back at 0. 0 is less than or equal to 3, so I get to draw a dollar sign. This goes up to 1. 1 is less than or equal to 3. I get to draw another dollar sign. So we see the pattern, okay? So I know I'm going to draw 4 dollar signs, okay? And then when it hits 4, 4 is not less than or equal to 3. So then I fall out of my inner loop, go down a line, and then back into my inner loop. My outer loop, and that becomes 4. 4 is still less than 5. So now I'm going to go through my inner loop one more time. So let's see, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 will all be less than or equal to 4. So I know I'm going to have 5 dollar signs. Once you see the pattern. Okay. And when I get down to 5, 5 is not less than or equal to 4. So I fall out of the inner loop, go down a line, come out to my outer loop. This becomes a 5. 5 is not less than 5. So my loop is done. Okay. So when I run this, I should have kind of a little tree of dollar signs building up. Okay. So let's run it and let's see if that's what we get. Okay. Now don't forget the other one's going to run too. Okay, so if you'll notice down here, here's that little increase of dollar signs. So I had 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. Okay, so my trace table, what I had for my trace table is exactly what I saw coming out. Okay, my output. Okay, it's important. I mean, you're going to have to build some nesting loops, all right, and they will get much more complicated. But it's also very important to know how to trace, okay, and that's what that loop analysis. Again, as we go through and we learn more stuff, we'll learn how to build more intricate nesting loops. Okay, I have some code down here that I comment it out. Let me pop it up here, because what I want to do, oh, where is it? I want to do a tracing table first, and then we'll run it to see what happens. Okay, so let me uncomment it. And I said, let's do a trace table to figure out what this is going to print. All right, let's do a trace table to figure out what this is going to print. Oops, let me get some space here. I don't want to see that other one. Okay, I'm going to do a clean tracing table for this one. I'm going to use a little bit of graphing paper for the output because I need to keep my spaces very in line. Okay, all right, let me get my papers. All right, so let's do our tracing table for this one. So I have an outer loop of I, an inner loop of J. Oh, wait, I have two things going on the inside. So my inner loop, I've got a double inner loop. The J is going to run until that's not true anymore, and then the K will run until that's not true anymore. It'll go down a line, and I'll come back to my I. So if I is true, I'll run J until it is true. I'll run K until it is true, and then I'll add a line, and I'll come back to I. Okay, so my outer is I, that starts at 0, and my inner, I actually have two of them. I have a J, which is also starting at 0, and I have a K, which is starting at 0. Okay, now again, what I like to do is kind of label. So I needs to be less than 5. J needs to be less than 5 minus I. Okay, so I'm going to take that into account. And K should be less than or equal to 1. Not 1, I. Okay, they're all incrementing. Okay, so they're all going to go up by 1. And it looks like I'm printing spaces for J and an asterisk and a space for K. All right, so let's work through this. I is 0, 0 is less than 5, so I'm going to jump into the first inner loop. So J is 0, J is less than, let's see, 5 minus 0 is 5, so that's true. So I think I need to print a space. Okay, I'm going to put my output down here so I can keep track of the spaces. So this is the first line. I'm printing a space. Okay, now this is going to increment up to 1. 1 is still less than 5 minus 0. Okay, so I'm going to print another space. Okay, that's this space right here that I'm printing. Okay, and then I is going to go up to 2. 2 is still less than 5 minus 0. I'm going to print another space. Go up to 3. 3 is still less than 5 minus 0. 4 is still less than 5 minus 0. And then 5 is not less than 5 minus 0. Okay, so now it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Okay, now this loop is done because that's not true anymore. 5 is not less than 5. So now I'm going to go over to my K loop, my K inner loop. K is 0. 0 is less than or equal to 0, so that's true. So I need to print out an asterisk. It looks like an asterisk and a space. Okay, then K is going to go up to 1. 1 is not less than or equal to 0, so that loop's done. Okay, so now I'm going to come and I'm at the bottom here. I'm going to add a line. I'm going to go down a line. Then I'm going to go back up to my outer loop. So my outer loop is going to increment up to 1. 1 is still less than 5, so now I'm going to jump in here. J starts back at 0. Now is 0 less than 5 minus 1? 0 is less than 4, so I'm going to have a space. 1 is less than 4, so I'm going to have a space. 2 is less than 4, so I'll have a space. 3 is less than 4, so I'll have a space. Now 4 is not less than 4. Okay, so that one's done. So now I'm going to jump over to my K. He's back at 0. Is 0 less than or equal to 1? Yes, it is. So I'm going to do an asterisk and a space. And then increment up to 1. 1 is less than or equal to 1. That's true. So I'm going to do an asterisk and a space. Then I go up to 2. 2 is not less than or equal to 1. So that loop's done. Now I would come down a line, okay, back to my outer loop. So that will increment up to 2. 2 is less than 5. I'm good to go. So J starts back at 0. Let's see. 0 is less than 5 minus 2, which is 3. So 0 is less than 3. Got a space. 1 is less than 3. Got a space. 2 is less than 3. Got a space. Now 3 is not less than 3. So this one's done. So now I'm going to pop over here and start at 0. Is 0 less than or equal to I, which is 2? Why, yes, it is. So now I need to do an asterisk and a space is increment up to 1. 1 is less than or equal to 2. I will do another asterisk and space, come up to 2. 2 is less than or equal to 2, indeed, so I will do an asterisk and a space. And then I'll come down to 3. 3 is no longer less than or equal to 2. So that loop's done. Down at the bottom, I'm going to go down a line, and I'm going to go up to my outer loop of 3. So we can see the pattern that's already happening, okay? So let's finish it. We only got a couple more rows. So let's see, 5 minus 3 is 2. 0 is less than 2, 1 is less than 2, and 2 is not less than 2. So this is really only going to yield me 2 spaces, okay? Now I'm going to come over to K, the second inner loop. 0 is less than 3, 1 is less than or equal to 3, 2 is less than or equal to 3, 3 is less than or equal to 3, 4 is not. So 1, 2, 3, 4 asterisks and spaces. So 1, oh, that's a space. 2, 3, 4. Here, I must get rid of that extra line. It's going to drive me nuts. There we go. Okay. Almost done. So we're going to go back to, let me go down a line. Then I'm going to go back to my outer loop, and it becomes 4. 4 is still less than 5, yay. So over here, so 0. So now this is 5 minus 4. So 0 is less than 1, that's true, but 1 is not less than 1. So this is really only going to give me 1 space. Then I come over to my K inner loop, and I start back at 0. 0 is less than or equal to 4. 1 is less than or equal to 4. 2 is less than or equal to 4. 3 is less than or equal to 4. 4 is less than or equal to 4, but 5 is not. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 asterisks and spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Come down a line, come back to my outer loop, change this to 5. 5 is not less than 5, so therefore that's not true. My loop is done. Okay, so I should print out, looks like I don't know, a little Christmas tree or something. So I should see some spaces. Well, I won't actually see the spaces, but we should see our tree being built. Okay, so let's run it, and let's see if that's what we got. Oh, look at there. There's our lovely tree. Okay, so pretty much exactly the way we had traced it out to end up looking like. So this is the very usefulness of a tracing table, okay? The more organized it is, it's easier to follow. And once you start seeing patterns, you can move a little quicker, okay? So we've got several examples here of nested loops. And again, besides writing them, being able to trace them and figure out how many times the inner loop runs, how many times the outer loop runs, what's the output is also very important, okay? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.